Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Corporate Quitter. Today's actually feels really, really nice. Not that me doing the podcast has ever not felt nice, but sometimes there's this pressure to kind of put on a show because essentially that's what I'm doing, right? But I've done this before and I've talked about it, I think, in an episode around June of last year, so 2023, about the concept of a dopamine detox. Now, at the time when I had done it, it was like full-fledged dopamine detox. So for those who don't know what that is, essentially it's when you kind of cut yourself off from any hits of dopamine, whether it's caffeine, sex, to entertainment, reading, music, anything like that. Basically anything that would cause you specifically a dopamine rush. And the reason people do this is to kind of reset their bodies. The other thing too is, right, as a society, we are so attuned to at this point to like the instant rush of getting the Amazon package in 2 days, right? The instant gratification of making a post and it going viral and getting likes and all that stuff. Or maybe even if you don't go viral. It's just that feeling of, oh, okay, I'm getting validation, or again, that rush of dopamine and serotonin to, I don't know, in some way, shape, or form, fuel the validation point of my existence or just feeling good, right? Much like gambling, we've now kind of picked up dopamine from other things in our lives, from, again, the caffeine rush that we have after pounding down coffee and then we crash midday, whatever. There's still that dopamine rush that happens. And so this past weekend, we're really the past few weeks, I've been feeling like I've been in overconsumption mode. And that typically happens for me around winter, right? The hermiting, the cold. I mean, even though I live in Austin and it's quite warm here, seasonally though, my body is trained much like we are at mammals, right? We're trained to hibernate and kind of hunker down in the winter, despite what it feels like outside. It's still, I was in this mindset of like, okay, I'm just gonna what they call girl rot, right? So in this case, like laying in bed and just vegetating and being in consumption mode and putting on the TV, and like every moment I was recognizing that I was reaching for my phone to scroll or whatever it was, to not only escape what I was currently going through, right? The uncomfortability of yet another chapter of uncertainty, but also like me basically going into overconsumption mode. I was using it as a crutch for my own creativity. So consumption is perfect. It's actually required as an artist. You have to consume others people's art and just other experiences and music and anything that falls underneath the artist umbrella, which can be really anything, right? It's up to you to decide what art is, but consumption is required, right? You need to gain different perspectives and see what people that you aspire to are doing, in the sense of like triggering some emotion or thought process. Or I know you've had it, I've had it too, where essentially I feel like I read it one single sentence in a book and it just like catapults me into this next sort of phase of my life or something like that. And that can happen to, again, visual aspects on social media, discussions that are happening on TikTok, podcasts, YouTubes, like literally anything. And also just experiences, right? Going for a walk and seeing a dog run around in the dog park, that in itself is an art form of expression, right? That can serve as your own form of inspiration. So even though I do grab for, I don't want to say the low hanging fruit, but like the better fruit, if you will, of like being in nature and swimming and walking and doing those things as regularly as I can based on the seasons and what's going on in my life, I was recognizing that I was reaching for my phone again to scroll, to take away the pain of the discomfort of being still, right? There's we don't like to be still as a society, and as someone who's a business owner and I run the show myself, no shit, I don't like to be still, because stillness like feels like there's no momentum, right? And momentum is required to have success, especially in business. Once you lose momentum, we've all been there with our exercise, with our businesses, with dating, like anything like that. It kind of makes it hard for us to get back on the bandwagon, right? Going back to the overconsumption, I was finding that I was reaching this point. It could be a scary, dark point if you kind of keep going down that route, which I've experienced before, of like, what's the fucking point of all of this, right? Why do I keep showing up? Why do I keep doing the podcast? Why do I keep seeking out something that, though I've had great success from, in some ways I still feel slightly disappointed? Now, of course, that's a perception issue that I need to tweak and practice gratitude for and all that. But at the same time, it also goes to show, oh, is overconsumption taking over? Because consumption is supposed to be that of inspiration. But if it's getting to the point where I was doing too much comparison, especially with consuming content, you see what other, for me specifically, I see what other women are wearing, the financial aspects that they've achieved that I haven't, or goals and things like that that I've wanted to do, but I have no idea how to get there. it comes to a point where you have to decipher, I now being inspired by the consumption, or am I now feeling the negative tolls of the consumption? And so I was definitely going down that route of negative consumption, just feeling the pressure of the comparison of others, the comparison of my peers, to the point of I was actually starting to feel a bit of anger. Like, I would say anger is an easy emotion for me to capture. In terms of, like, if we look at the range of emotions, it used to be really easy for me to access sadness. I mean, it still is, but when I was looking at, the spectrum of emotions, my natural inclination is always happiness and optimism, because that's where I fall. And if I were to experience an emotion, it would mostly be sadness, right? When you get into a confrontation with someone, or something goes wrong, or whatever it is, much like a toddler, you kind of break down and cry because you can't really express your emotions or things like that. And even you can express your emotions, and it just happens to be sadness. So for a while, the sadness and crying, and they're still cathartic experiences, and I still rely on those emotions, but that was my default. And as I've gotten older and learned to, like, actually welcome in anger, and kind of, I would say, the darkness within me, and kind of be a little bit less apprehensive and more welcoming of it, because again, it is a cathartic experience, and it is emotion that you're supposed to harness, especially as an artist, right? Everything that I do in creative process has to stem from emotion. That's what makes me feel things, and what makes you, the listener, the consumer of said art, to be someone who feels it too. So that's the whole point of art, is to basically make you feel something. And so I, as I've gotten older, have been able to harness anger a lot better, and process it and use it for exercise, actual artistry, dance, like whatever it is. But since I've been on quote unquote bed rest because of my half marathon, it's been really difficult for me to move my body enough to let the anger or frustration kind of release itself, right? And so I definitely was feeling the anger sort of starting to boil and mix with sadness. And I was just not that I wasn't doing well, but I was starting to feel the creepness of this depression, of this sort of like hopelessness that comes, especially when you look at the world. Like, I was just like, okay, I can't consume anymore. If I see another thing about Gaza, if I see another thing about rising inflation and the fact that nothing is affordable, right? Like, I'm just going to explode. And I was already internally exploding, but I wasn't willing to admit to myself, like, girl, you need to cut it out. Like, I already don't watch the news, and I already am really, really anal about what I consume. I don't really follow that many people on social, and I often will remove people from my feed or tweak my feeds if I do use social, because, right, you get to choose what you consume. And so I've kind of curtailed that and really niched down what I want to see in my social media kind of world. But even so, right, up to the algorithm, they like to suggest things. And so going back to what I was saying around, okay, this negative feeling was creeping in, and again, the creativity was feeling stifled, I decided to do basically a mini dopamine detox this weekend. And I'm probably going to continue doing it throughout the week. So other than my creation, right, which I'm doing right now, I'm not using my phone. I'm not posting on social. And if I do post on social, I just post and that's it, and I get off of it. I obviously have to do client work too, because I do a lot of work in digital marketing and social media, helping other clients post and come up with concepts of, reels and things like that. So I sort of have to be in it. But again, I'm just in it to post on behalf of my clients or for myself, and I get out of there. And it's only been 2 days that I've been off of social media, and even TV. I haven't watched TV. I haven't done any consumption from the perspective of entertainment. And it's been wildly helpful, as if it's so difficult to do, to just put your phone down. But I also remembered that, oh, wait, this is actually not supposed to be something we use every day. It's just a tool, right? And so I don't know how many days I'm going to do this for. I might just really start limiting my scrolling. Again, I might post and stuff like that, and I would like to engage with the people who are in my world, which is you guys and friends and family and things like that. But I think, as someone who has struggled with creativity recently, I'm never low on the creative spectrum, but from a business perspective, having a lot of difficulty of deciding, okay, what's the next footpath? I think I'm in this phase of, okay, I can't consume right now. I have to create, because it's when I start consuming that I start comparing myself. And when I compare myself, ain't no shit getting done. So I basically want to encourage you guys, if you can and you have the capacity to limit your consumption, at least for a day. Just try for a day. And so what I was doing when I wasn't on my phone scrolling is either nothingness, right? So actually eating my lunch and just kind of being here and not actually scrolling and filling up time, even waiting online for things, which again sounds so silly, but it's like actually a big deal. The fact that I never had quiet or free time. I even was started going on walks and not playing music and just like listening to the birds and the dogs bark and like the cars passing by and things like that, just so that I can retrain my brain to not reach for things and to remain present. So also I can receive the downloads and insights that me as a creative rely on, right? I am one with the muse, if you will, and need to be open to her sending me messages or ideas, right? When you have that moment that comes out of left field, and you're just like, how did this? I don't know. I wasn't waiting for this. I wasn't asking for this. It wasn't even like I was sitting at my computer willing the answer or the idea to come. It just happened in the middle of playing baseball or doing this or going for a walk. And so I have to remember that that is a requirement. Quiet and stillness is a requirement to figure out the ideas, not sitting down at a computer and willing myself to create and come up with the idea. A dopamine detox can be kind of extreme where you take out all forms of dopamine. But for me, some of them that I kept in was coffee on occasion. I had a cup today. The past 2 days I haven't, but today I wanted to get some things done. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. That to me, I'm allowed to have that dopamine rush because I'm doing work and also because the past 2 days I haven't. So yay, good for you. I also kept in reading just because reading for me brings a lot of joy, and it's also really great because I'm learning at the same time. I always read a lot, but I wanted to make sure that it was something that I actually was being present for so I can consume the information versus just blowing through a book to say, oh, I checked the box and read the book and didn't actually grasp anything from it. So those two things I've been keeping in, and music on occasion, like maybe when I drive or like clean or something if I'm multitasking. But I've been trying really hard to be silent because it's in the silence that, again, you receive the insight. And if I'm in this place of craving and wanting insight, well, bitch, you need to shut up. So, right, as individuals, we crave movement because movement is the thing that, again, like makes things happen. You have to move, you have to take action for things to happen. But sometimes what happens is when you're so attuned and you're so fixated on movement, you end up kind of floating in a direction that's directionless. And so before I actually set sail again, I want to make sure that my direction is really, really clear. And in that is something that I'm going to have to report back because, again, I'm giving myself the week, maybe even the whole month. We'll see how long I really want to do this for, to reset myself so that come spring, I not only have planted seeds, which I have been doing, but planting really, really solid seeds with really good roots so that come springtime, I can finally reap the rewards or the flowers, if you will, the fruits of my labor to actually maybe attaining some of the things that I set for myself at the beginning of this year. If any of you guys have any questions about the dopamine detox or detaching from social media and entertainment or things that you want to learn more about, please let me know. Again, like I said, I would encourage you guys to try it. If you can't remove all forms of entertainment and dopamine, try just one. I would recommend social media or TV if you can, something that's actually like the blue light and the consumption of other people's creativity, just taking a break from that. You can still have your caffeine, enjoy your music, enjoy your reading, things like that. I've actually been using Pinterest because it's a mood board for me. I use it every single month to create monthly vision boards. So that form of social media I've kept, but the other forms where it's just like constantly getting information and honestly education and things that I don't really need, I've removed. But just would, kind of nudge you to try this for a day. And if you like it, keep trying it and aim for a week and see what happens. And like I said, I'll report back next week on what's happened in my life because it's only been 2 days. And so far I'm feeling a lot better. I've been moving my body, eating well, and actually not being so hard on myself. I mean, it's not that I'm always hard on myself, but if the pressure is a little bit off right now, which feels quite nice. But have a great rest of your week. Daylight savings is this coming Sunday. So for those of you who need a little extra rest like I do, make sure to factor that in because we will be losing an hour of sleep. But anyway, have a great week and I will talk to you guys soon.